We're checking in with CBS Sports Network Sherree Burruss, who will be the sideline reporter for this Sunday's game as the Broncos head to Charlotte, North Carolina to take on the Panthers. Sherree, just to start, from the national perspective, what do you think of this matchup as a whole? What excites you about it?
I'm really excited to see how the team sort of bounce back. I know this year probably isn't what either team really wanted. And in the COVID issues for Carolina this week, obviously we know what the Broncos went through in the previous week. So it's really interesting to see kind of how they both bounce back and who can kind of get the edge to get the win, because both teams are, I wouldn't say desperate for a W, but could certainly use a win.
Yeah, who do you think has the advantage really heading into this game, Sherree? Is it the Panthers, who are well rested but a little shorthanded, or is it the Broncos, who obviously have a lot of momentum coming off that really close Chiefs game over the weekend?
I'm thinking it is Denver because of that Chiefs game. I know we said Carolina had that week to rest, but they have 8, I believe, players, 5 starters that are dealing with COVID this week, so they're going to be shorthanded, as you mentioned. And I don't know if it's not a confidence booster to hold Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs to 22 points, I don't know what else is in this league. So Denver just needs to kind of keep building off of that. I know there's sort of what I would call a honey-do list for Drew Lock to improve on this week, but momentum is, I think, on their side here.
Well, speaking of that close Broncos-Chiefs game, what did you see that you liked about this Broncos team? It seemed like Drew Lock had a few flashes, maybe.
Absolutely. I mean, I was kind of flipping back and forth, and then eventually we stuck with the game when we saw just how close and how good it was. I mean, Denver was leading the Chiefs there for a while. So it's definitely a good game. I mean, I actually used to work in Columbia, Missouri, so I'm very familiar with Drew Lock, watching him all through his 4 years in college. So I'm a huge Drew Lock fan. Looking at his numbers, I mean, he's only played 14 games through 2 seasons. I'm not calling him a rookie, but he hasn't even played a whole NFL season yet. So there's still a little bit of growing pain. So I think that kind of stuck out to me, but definitely the Denver defense also was really impressive.
Speaking of that Denver defense, it was announced this week that AJ Boye will be suspended for the next 6 games. Plus our other cornerbacks, Bryce Callahan and Essang Bassey, they were both placed on IR within the last 2 weeks. How do you think this Broncos secondary is going to adapt to that?
It sounds so cheesy, and even when I hear it from, teams, I think, the textbook answer, next man up. But that's exactly what it's going to have to be. I mean, there's very few guys that make it to the NFL, and everyone is good, and that's why they're getting paid. So I think this is a really important opportunity for those younger guys to really step up and prove that, yeah, I deserve some minutes. I deserve to be out there, and I'm going to earn these paychecks. And hey, maybe I have a chip on my shoulder because I'm not the starter, or I just got called up from the practice squad. So I hope they put a little grit on Sunday.
And in terms of receivers, the Broncos have seen Tim Patrick take a big jump this season. Rookies Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, they've really stepped up since Courtland Sutton was placed on IR. What are your thoughts on some of those guys?
I think it's a really good receiving core. Like you said, they're kind of young. I mean, Jerry Jeudy really stood out to me. I'm a huge also college football fan, so getting to watch him on the college level absolutely just light up the SEC. Now to be here in the NFL, I'm excited to see what he can do. I know there's reports he hasn't been happy with how many receiving yards and, targets he's gotten. So, he's just anxious to kind of break out. So I think this receiving core is just, they're just almost there. If Drew can get a couple more good balls to them and they can hang on, I think this really could be a really strong group.
Well, we all know this Sunday it will be Drew Lock up against Teddy Bridgewater. So you have the young gun going up against the vet. So what is your take on that quarterback matchup coming up this week?
I really like Teddy Bridgewater. The fact that he's been able to overcome so many things, injuries, multiple teams. He's kind of a mobile guy too. So I'm interested to see kind of that balance of, Drew can scramble too, but I think his sort of claim to fame is that cannon of an arm that he's got. So just kind of balancing the run game versus who can kind of throw the better balls is going to kind of be a deciding factor in this one.
Well, like we all know, the Panthers and Broncos are 1-4 in their last 5 games. So who do you think needs this win more at this point this season?
It's a really good question. There's so much on the line. I mean, you never want to tank on purpose. But there could be some really good guys early on in the draft that you might think, well, I guess that could be our silver lining. I would say though, I guess my money would be on Drew Lock and Denver at this point, just that he is so young. I know there's some calls of what should we do about the quarterback situation for that position. So I think just for his own job security, Drew needs to lead this team to a win.
Sherree, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate you talking to Alexis and I today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.